Hi, everybody, and welcome to episode 16 of the Like, Click and Share podcast. In this episode, we're talking about motivation. How do we keep ourselves motivated? Why should we keep ourselves motivated? And kind of the problems and the challenges of sort of keeping motivated. And I know it's quite difficult for myself. The reason why we're talking about it this time is we've come out of COVID. We've undergone a lot of problems and challenges over the last couple of years for if you're a business owner or for anybody really. It doesn't have to be just in business. It's been a really challenging time, and there's a lot of other things going on around the world right now, which are, some of it's quite doom and gloom. So how do you keep yourself positive? How do you keep yourself motivated in order to do your daily job, but also to give that little bit extra to your clients and your customers, and also just keep yourself focused? So would you say that's a fair appraisal, Jem?
I do. I think it's a fair appraisal. I just think, not without wanting to sound like doom and gloom, I think it's hard. I think everything at the minute, no matter what you look at, it's difficult, isn't it? It's either you're reading something about it, or you're talking to somebody and hearing something that's happened, or it's everywhere you look. And I just think it's quite a hot topic, and I think it's difficult as well. I think with everybody moving to work and from home, I think that's been quite a big shift for people's mindsets as well, hasn't it? It's just, I don't know. I think it's a crucial topic. I think it's a hard topic as well. And I think anybody who says that they haven't been affected by anything that's happened either over the last couple of years or that's happening now is lying. I think everybody's been affected in some way, whether it's to do with motivation, whether it's to do with anything really. What about you?
Yeah, no, I agree, and I think that the last couple of weeks have been quite tricky for me because I'm kind of like working across different time zones, so that's a bit of a problem. Sort of getting up at some strange hours and working quite long days, and it's about, you have to look after yourself. Because nobody's kind of really going to do that for you, because that's really your job to do. People can look out for you. So I suppose the first tip is surrounding yourself with nice people. People can help you out of difficult situations. But also, secondly, I think you've got your responsibility to yourself to look after you, because you have to put yourself first. And I try to always think like, well, can I just get half an hour for myself amongst a 14-hour day or something? And the answer should always be, out of 14 hours, it's like, or 12 hours, you should be able to find half an hour for yourself. If not, then you're just trying to fit too much into a day, and you've just got to start, perhaps squeezing less into the day, because that could also affect your quality of output. You're not going to be working at your best quality, because you can't work consistently high quality for 13, 14 hours. So having that half an hour time out, to do with its exercise. And I find half an hour to do exercise. I haven't got a Peloton bike, but I use a Peloton app on cycle. So if I can find maybe just 15 minutes or do some stretching, which is great, because if you're doing a lot sitting down, not doing computer work, so it's not just benefit for the mind, but also practically for the body, just to get away from sitting down, or go for a little walk, or sort of just sitting outside, whether it's at home or in somewhere else in the office or the office block. Just find your little space, put a podcast on for 15 minutes. So those types of things can be really great. And the one other thing I also done, kind of unbeknowingly, I've kind of reduced a lot of my time now on social media, and I suppose shouldn't really say that. I don't know if I should or shouldn't say that as a marketing professional, but when I'm kind of complaining to myself at the end of the week, I was like, well, I haven't got this done, I haven't got that done, just on personal things, not so much work stuff, but I've not found time to do, read a book, or I've not found time to maybe do some of my hobbies. It's like, well, actually, look at how I am spending my time. That's something I did a bit of reflection. It's like, well, I'm spending an hour or just under an hour looking at Twitter feed like every night. It's like, well, actually, that hour could be doing something towards something more productive, whether it's planning a the day, or whatever it may well be that you want to do. So, but I actually feel there's been a benefit of that, not just because of the time, but also just the anxiety levels, like you said about the media, because there is that thing of when you're reading stuff, there's a lot of negative news around, and then just keep reading more of that, I think kind of reinforces that mindset. So that's what I've been doing really the last couple of weeks in the trend. I don't want to kind of give up socials altogether, but I'm definitely much more mindful at the moment while I'm in a busy phase, to maybe just do it as just to dip in and dip out, rather than spend a lot of my time. What about you? You love TikTok?
Yeah, I do. I mean, to be honest, I love watching the videos, but I'm finding at the moment, certainly Twitter, TikTok, very almost like dark places. I don't know if it's just people's mindsets and how they're feeling in general, but I feel like at the moment, and certainly over the last few months, people's comments and negativity and the way people talk about people's families and children and what people look like and things like that. I just find it quite a dark place if you go in the comments. I enjoy watching the videos on TikTok, but if you click in to see what people are saying about it, it's really? What? Why? And I think that's the thing that I'm finding probably the most difficult about social media at the minute. I think the other thing is when you do it during the day for a job, I'm trying not to use it as much on a night, and I'm trying to only say, if I have a look on the TikTok app, I'm only going to go on for 20 minutes because otherwise I can be there for hours. But I think because I'm seeing so many people saying negative things, and obviously nothing's done about it, I think TikTok are a lot stricter than Twitter and Facebook, for example. So there are words you can't use in your videos. There are things that you can't do, like you can't be on a live and have a drink or smoke, or they are very strict like that, and they will ban people. And if people are commenting, then you might lose your. Do you know what I mean? If you say negative things, whereas I think Twitter in particular, I know my mum's been going on there. She wanted to be set up so she could have a look, because she's a big Line of Duty fan, and she wanted to see, because me and my sister were telling her about what things were going on there, and she said she can't believe some of the things that people come out with and say to people when you see under the comments and you're scrolling through. And I think you can I think it's a double thing, isn't it? There's a lot of negativity and there's a lot of people saying things, but then there's the other fact that there's a lot of stuff on there that's not real. Do you know what I mean? You're going on Instagram and seeing people's pictures that have got filters on, that have been photoshopped, that have gone in a designer store and tried something on and pretended that it was theirs, or pictures by your car. Do you know what I mean? Pretending their life's better than what it is. And that's false for people as well. Do you know what I mean? There doesn't seem to be anything in the middle, or it doesn't seem to be almost used the way that it was intended anymore.
I think
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's really interesting. It's definitely been picked up. I'm hearing a lot more people talk about, social media as just it's generally now having a much more negative association than it's ever had before, even though it had a bad reputation. I suppose more specific platforms have had more of a bad reputation along the way, but now kind of the whole scene is kind of seen as not that great. And I went on Instagram the other day and actually looking at the content, it's there was nothing really. I mean, it goes back to your feed and who you follow and stuff, but even some of the stuff on there was quite very superficial, and it just wasn't the same space as it was maybe even a year ago. I don't think, or even a couple of years ago. I don't know what the answer is, because you can't ban comments, because that really ending almost the right to free speech. The whole concept though of free speech is interesting, because I think this is where it's come back into the news because of Elon now buying Twitter, and kind of people are kind of guessing or jumping at what might happen about Twitter, and then how it might just be opening up to free speech. But actually free speech is seen as a great thing, but actually we know now that actually people they don't have balanced viewpoints, generally speaking, and some of them are quite sensationalist. And I'm sure people can use their own imaginations about some of the type of content on there. So, how do you monitor all that? And that's why I do empathize, I think, with the social media platforms, that when you actually really get to understand the problems, like you've just been talking about, how it's not just a case of using machine learning to censor certain words or phrases, or, you know, how can you continue to police and monitor all of that? And I don't know. I think we have to understand that we live with that. We can't block it out from society. I think definitely when things are hugely wrong with channels, or with people posting, I suppose content which is not true. But there are lots of grey areas, and having somebody keep reviewing all of that, it just isn't also practically possible. So I think it's definitely a real challenge, and I suppose that what might help is actually what we're facing, this new leap of this new leap into the metaverse. So there'll be a technological change. So what we might start to see is actually people not using social media so much, and then people embracing a newer version of technology. Well, we should have its own problems, but we might just see a change to how technology is being used. So that might bring some changes around, and I do think potentially we might see the first time I think we might start to see the fall of a social media platform. They can't all continue surviving. None of us have enough hours in the day to keep going to these platforms, and there's nothing really enough unique about each of the platforms, I don't feel, from a marketing perspective now. So yeah, I think that we might start to see either the fall or another merge along somewhere. I mean, LinkedIn is really standing out now as a really good platform. It do everything that we really want social media to do, and because it's got this kind of business persona, people generally behave themselves, or it certainly has the reputation for people behaving themselves more there. And I think that maybe that's where Facebook and Instagram may need to start taking a few, might start to need to look to LinkedIn. People just creating their own personas, and that is nothing. There's no on LinkedIn is that you are a professional, aren't you? So if you say something absolutely ridiculous as a statement, well, that's associated with you personally. So that is you have to carry the can, as it were. So you can't think of the word now, but yeah, you're carrying the can for what you say, but there's no punishment, I suppose, self-punishment. There's no self-policing really, particularly on Facebook or Twitter.
You can almost be anybody, can't you? You could be, I could be you could be me, you could say what you want. I think I am starting to see some negativity on LinkedIn, and people start to say things a bit more that they would say on other platforms. I think for me, it's more just sometimes you can be in the best mood in the world, and even just going on to check something, like if I'm going on to do some posts for me or for us, and you see something and you cannot help it. Your curiosity gets the better of you, and you click on it. It might be a hashtag about something, and you can go from being in the best mood ever to being and you have lost your motivation, and it's well, how do you get that back, and what am I going to do now? Because now I've got to sit for I don't know how many hours, and I've got to work through all these things that I need to do, and it's well, you want to go back and have another look, and do you know what I mean? It's how do you get around that? I think that sometimes I find quite difficult.
So how do you keep yourself motivated then, just generally? What do you have? Do you set up a plan at the beginning of the year for things that you want to achieve in the year, or?
No, because I think personally for me, if I do stuff like that, I'd never achieve them. If I say on Monday I'm going to do such and such, start a diet plan or start an exercise plan, I always find that I can quite easily talk myself out of that. But for work-wise, for being at home and stuff, I mean, I find music really, really motivational. So if I'm in if I'm in a bad mood or I need to get something done, I'll put some music on. But I think I do make lists, but small lists of things that I need to do throughout the day. And once I've done a couple of things, I might have a break or have a wander around, or sometimes I think it's quite lonely working from home. So sometimes I've got the telly on in the background. I'm not really watching it. It's just to have things like moving around that catch your eye and stuff. I think making sure that you know that if you are having a bad day and you don't get everything done that you need to, as long as you've done the key things, then it isn't the end of the world.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I think that's the struggle that people have at the moment, and making sure that you tell yourself that sometimes what people are posting on social media, it's not real, you know. So don't think, oh well, look at them, they're having a great time, because are they? Do you know what I mean? You don't really know what's going on behind the scenes, and I would probably hazard a guess that something like 9 times out of 10, that person who's standing there smiling behind the scenes is not feeling as good as what they look like in the picture. What about you?
Well, I tend to, like I say, I try to get this like half an hour time or 20 minutes or something just to do some physical exercise, but it's also more of a break away from the screen, because I think sometimes as well, when you're sitting there doing work on the screen all day, you can start to suffer some neck problems as well. So it can cause you some It is. It really hurts.
Yeah.
So you need to have the break away from that. So, and it's hard. Like, you know, one of my other hobbies is music, but that involves screen work. I mean, so I have some other devices, but it's still all based around electronics. So trying to actually get away from doing things like having a digital detox, I think is something we all need to kind of like take that break at some point throughout the year, and that means putting the phones down and the screens down, and you know, maybe not taking your phone to the table. And also I think that getting people to hold you to account, you know, in so many different ways. So, you know, if you've got a partner, if your partner is nagging at you about like, well, you've always got your phone with you, you're always looking at your phone, not looking to me or listening to me, you need to listen to that, because, you know, it's not a great habit to have when you're, you know, your attention span is really quite limited. I've definitely found that sometimes if your attention span is quite limited, then also your kind of your patience can also be aligned in the same way. So if you're talking to people, then your mind's not really focused on what you're doing at the moment.
I feel like I'm quite good if I'm in like people's company. If I'm in company and I'm like, or I'm on a call with somebody, or like I'm out with my friends, or I'm out for tea, or just sitting having a chat in the house and stuff, I'm quite good. I can leave my phone and not look at it until I see other people picking it up, because I actually think that's like quite rude. That's one of the things that I really hate. I hate to be sat with my friends, or I've gone to their house, or we've gone out somewhere and they're all just sitting scrolling, because I think, well, like we've all made the effort to meet up. So I really don't like that, and I go mad with my family. Sometimes I go mad with my friends. I don't like that at all. So I can do that. It's more when I'm sat on my own, I think, that I start scrolling, or if I haven't got anything to do, or sometimes you've got like something that you need to do for work, or something just that you need to do in your day-to-day life, and you will do anything but do that task, because either, you know, it's going to be boring, or it's not what you want to do, you know. So I'll pick up my phone and I'll do this, and I think that's sometimes when you've got to really be strict with yourself. But I mean, I am quite good, and I'm not bothered about saying to my friends, "Oh man, I've come round to see you," and you sat there on your phone, you know. So
like you say, well, you know, what's the point? And but I think like definitely you're trying to get that mix of, you know, if you're a very creative person, then you might want to try to look at doing other kind of like other tasks. But if you're not very creative, definitely having a mix of creative tasks to break up your week. And it could be like baking, it could be sort of drawing, art, it could be learning a language, so it can be fitness, but having that mix of practical sort of tasks mixed in with your kind of normal rudimentary stuff definitely opens you up for I suppose inspiration as well, bringing new ideas to the table. And you know, because sometimes that's really important, that you're still open to new opportunities, and you can't have new opportunities if you're not open to them. So if you're always in your same mind all the time, you're thinking, well, I just don't get a break, you know, nobody's giving me opportunities, or nothing's moving on. If you're starting to feel that way, it's like, well, you know, you have to question yourself, like, well, how how easy are you making it for yourself to receive those new ideas? So if you're closed off and you never really see anybody or will never speak to anybody, well, then chances are you're never going to get any opportunities. So you have to kind of work at that as well. So I think it's important just to keep doing those reviews, to keep checking in with yourself. Is it everything okay? Are you going where you think you want things to be going? How's life working out for you? Very, very, without going too deep, but are you going in the right direction? If not, then you might need to kind of like change a few things up and just try and experiment. I think more than anything, that's what I tend to say to people. But the music stuff is really good.
Because it can change. Like I can literally go from being in the worst mood ever and put a song on or hear something if I've got it on in the background, and my mood can change instantly. And I think there's a lot of songs as well that you associate with things from your past or like good memories. I mean, obviously you have some that you associate like bad as well, but they're the ones that you don't put on when you're trying to get motivated. But it's like, but I think music for me is probably the big thing, because it literally, like that one song, just even the first minute of that one song can totally change my mindset and how I feel. So, and I think it's like, I always like to, on a morning when I get up and I go in the shower, I always like to have my music on blasting, because I find that it helps me like wake up if I'm in the car. Because people are always saying, do you never listen to the radio? And I'm like, no, never. Like,
it's interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Sometimes I like to have background chatter, and the feel that, you've got other people around you. But the other time it can be really distracting. And I think what you've touched on there is really important. It's almost like setting the scene, for what you're doing at that particular time. So if you are feeling a bit vulnerable or a bit lonely, then okay, maybe having a bit of something on in the background is great for you. But if you've got tons of energy and like you just need to get some focus, then the last thing you need to do is put some drum and bass on in the background. So it's like, you have to kind of adapt, I suppose. That's a really interesting, it's something interesting I'd like to bear in mind. Okie dokie. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed this kind of open chat and discussion, and we'd love to hear your ideas and thoughts about how you keep yourself motivated. The link to do that is just be in the show notes below, so do get in touch with us, and we'll be back soon for the next episode of the Like, Click and Share podcast. So keep well and speak soon.